Welcome to all the bold, courageous, and powerful women tuning into Find Your Fabulous. I'm your host, Dr. Diane, and it's time to ignite your full power. Are you ready to embrace your talents and worth and unleash the wise goddess within? I've got the information, inspiration, and revelation you need to ignite your personal power so you can stop playing small and reclaim the passion and purpose that we all hold within us. Connect with other powerful spiritual women who yearn to be fully expressed. The world needs you. Full power. Let me guide you to find your fabulous and ignite your inner goddess. It all starts now on the Find Your Fabulous show. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Diane Garrison, and you are listening to Find Your Fabulous on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour and let us help you experience the pathway to finding your fabulous. Join us every first and third Monday at 8 a.m. Pacific time, where we will have information, inspiration, and revelation to help you ignite your personal power and reclaim the passion and purpose we all hold within us. I have with me today my very special guest, Reverend Dr. Kimmie Van Duijkeren, and she's teaching me how to say her name correctly, and our fabulous producer behind the scenes, Emily. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning, Dr. Diane and Dr. Kimmie.
In this episode, good morning, Emily. I didn't greet you back. Good morning, darling. In this episode, we are going to take you on a fantastic adventure as Dr. Kimmie and I explore the differences and interconnections between spirituality and religion. Since the dawn of humanity, people have sought to understand and connect to the divine, to the source of all life and all things. Different cultures and different peoples have come up with many ways to define, experience, and express this connection. Are you ready to come explore with us? But first, let me introduce you to Dr. Reverend Kimmie Van Duijkeren. And I got to say, your glasses are fabulous.
Oh, thank you. Gotta
Just
see,
for
gotta
the
see.
show. As a spiritual life coach and mindfulness life coach, Dr. Kimmie specializes in helping individuals uncover their true purpose and find fulfillment. Drawing from her extensive background in metaphysics and employing a transpersonal coaching approach, she excels at delving deep into the subconscious to unearth and overcome obstacles that may be hindering progress. She is committed to guiding others on their spiritual journey, helping them connect with their inner deity and live a life filled with purpose. Through personalized guidance and motivational teaching rooted in metaphysical principles, she empowers individuals to tap into their inner wisdom, embrace self-love, and embark on a journey of self-discovery. Wow, that truly sounds so rich and powerful, and you're definitely my kind of girl.
Well, you are my kind of girl, so let's get...
So, Dr. Kimmie, before we dive into our juicy topic, I want to ask you what I ask all my guests. What does becoming full power mean to you, and how did you discover your personal power?
Full power to me means being authentic, discovering that this world around us is not the end all be all. Your inner world is way more powerful, way more important than the things that you project. And as long as you've got that inner power all like you tapped into it, you're going to project a life. You're going to put, if you will, call it to you, call the life you want to you. So it's really about being authentic, just not trying to please everybody, trying to you can't please everybody. You never, that's a saying, but it's true. You can't. You can please yourself though. You can find your peace and your whatever peace looks like to you. So that's what I feel about like coming into your full power. It's really an internal thing. Then once you get it, you can reflect it to the world.
Amen. That's beautiful. I know for me, it took me a long time to get there. I was so stuck in being a doctor, PhD woman. I forgot that I had this inner life,
Right. And I think with women, it takes us a while because there's so many unsaid things that we have internalized since childhood that we have to kind of jump over that hurdle. Same with guys too, but a different set of things, and with us,
Right.
we've got to get over that imposter syndrome and all that jazz and just learn to just shine as who we truly are, and it is a journey. I think mine hit me. I kind of think it all hits us in our mid 40s.
Exactly. Is that with menopause or something?
Maybe the universe just says, you're done with all of this stuff. Here you go. Bing. But I honestly think mine happened around that time in my early 40s. I just, decided just like, what am I doing? And, really getting in touch with what I really wanted to do. And I think just being of service and helping women, because I think we all struggle or have struggled with self-esteem in one form or the other, or self-worth. And once you get over that and that I am a beautiful, like your opener, beautiful, like I'm a beautiful freaking goddess, whatever, like once you find that within yourself, the world is your oyster. You can go and get anything you want because you're going to be attracting it to you.
Absolutely. Agree 100%. All right, Dr. Kimmie, you ready to start digging in?
Oh yeah, religion. I love talking about stuff.
So let's start with some definitions. Mm-hmm. How do you define religion and how do you define spirituality?
Well, with religion, it's very structured. It's basically no matter what book that there's a following set of rules and regulations and things that you are instructed to believe are true. It's not really about, and I'm not trying to offend nobody, but it's not really about finding it. It's more like, this is what is given. This is the set of rules. This is what happened. This is how you should feel. It's very, rule-based, where I feel spirituality, mind you, you can find spirituality through however spirituality reflects through you is how it reflects through you. But spirituality to me as a whole, just by itself, not tainted by any type of books or whatever, is more open. Like I think it pulls from different experiences, different books, different things. And a lot of times spirituality is more of an experience. Like you start to dig on your own, and whatever spirit wants to show you, you start seeing reflected, and you start putting your own pieces together for your own unique way of looking at the world.
Yeah. So to me, the spirituality is the bigger, all-encompassing, and then religions fit into that. Right. And religions being more of the structured traditions, often people are raised in. Right. So you don't even know there's other traditions till you get older. So you're raised in a tradition under this set of beliefs, under this set of rituals when the community comes together to express, in a service. And the spirituality is the bigger, all-encompassing thing. Right? And for me, we can't deny, well, you can, but we're spiritual beings having a human experience, not that we're humans that might or might not have this energetic part of us called the soul.
Yeah, and that's true, because like religions are really written by humanity to explain what has been passed down. And a lot of it is passed down knowledge that has been reworded and regurgitated and retranslated and reinterpreted to where, do we really know what they wrote at first? I don't know. On some of those texts, I mean,
Right.
yeah, because like for the Bible, for example, a lot of the stories and things came from Babylonia, and we just start, the Babylonian texts and Sumerian gods. All of it is a translation of a translation. So who knows, 100, 200 years from now, someone might have another version of that. But religion, like you said, is the greater picture of everything. And that's why I said earlier, I was like, sometimes you come, however your spirituality is grounded, it's going to be grounded in whatever your belief system is. So it's going to reflect through your belief system. And you are right. Like a lot of times you're raised in religion. I was raised in religion, but I was very rebellious and I was that little child that said, I don't understand. And this story doesn't make, I was the
drunk the Sunday school teachers.
Oh God, they didn't know what to do with me. So, but I also come from a family that founded a church, and my dad had like a copy of the Lost Books of Eden behind the door and would say, don't read that. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go read that. So I was always curious. But a lot of times when you grow up, you're denied that curiosity. So you don't know about Buddhism. You don't know, and unless you know people that are reflecting of those other religions or different faiths, you're stuck in your own.
Right. So if you grow up in a homogenous kind of community, you only know what is taught to you in that community. And I think for a lot of people, well, in my generation, we didn't even, get exposure to different religions until college. Now young people have the internet and their social media platforms that, they get exposure to different religious traditions and even, seek them out. Like a lot of people who are into meditation and mindfulness seek to understand more about Hinduism or Buddhism. And yeah, but you only knew what you knew when I was growing up. I'd say I didn't even know till much later that, there was anything other than Catholics.
Yeah. You're like, we're the whole world. That's it. Good. That's it.
But when you're young, you don't get exposed to things,
I remember when I was in, I think I was in high school, because I was always have been a geek, and I'm Gen X. So like the computers had hit and I had so when I decided to become a witch, that was my thing. I'm going to become a witch. So like I dug on, and back then you didn't have a lot of information, but if you could find it, and I was good at digging. So I was like, oh, so I'd find this message board or this community online. So there were some back then. And I remember asking about how these gods and this god and all this stuff, and learning all this stuff. And so for a while, I found the local witch store and had every book known to man. Unfortunately, I don't have them anymore because I let people borrow them. You know how that goes. But it's like they never come back. But yeah, and so it's a matter of digging, and these days it's quick and easy, and you don't have to really try to dig.
Hey, Dr. Kimmie, we got to head off into a break. So we've been defining religion as the more traditional, structured way to connect with the divine, and spirituality being the bigger concept. We're going to dig a lot more and a lot deeper. After we take a break. You're listening to Dr. Diane and the Find Your Fabulous show. And before we take this break, Dr. Kimmie, can you tell our listeners how to reach out to you and find out more about your services?
Oh, I am on my website. Everything is there. It's reverendrkimmie.com, just REVDRKIMMIE.com, and everything is there.
Beautiful. And for all things fabulous, including my coaching services and free empowerment resources, you can check out my website at fullpowerwomen.com. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello, we are back on Find Your Fabulous with Dr. Diane and my special guest here today, Dr. Kimmie. And we are exploring the interconnections and differences between religion and spirituality. So we were just working on some definitions of what is religion versus what is spirituality. Now let's explore the ways religion and spirituality differ in their approaches to the concept of a deity or a higher power. You go.
Well, for me, I think it is what we were talking about. Mostly, I think it's the structure and the organization, and just the fact that it is so structured. There's really not a lot of wiggle room, depending on what religion you are raised in or indoctrinated into. You are going to have a specific way of coming at spirituality. So, with spirituality as it's separated from that, you're going to be more digging for the information and possibly even being, having a specific experience where it will lead you more to that connected, version of yourself. I know when I was younger, I had audio clear, but I didn't know I had audio clear, for example.
Tell
And
us what that means, because I think some of our listeners might.
Right. Well, it's out of all the special senses, you don't want this one very much, especially young, because you think you might be going crazy. You'll just hear certain things or words or people. You'll be able to be connected, and you won't know what it's about when you're young, especially unless someone's teaching you how to do that. So when I was younger, I had an incident where I heard something and it scared me, and I shut it all down. And then going towards my, getting into this, age and having other things awaken, like my chakras and all that jazz, and that coming back online, I wasn't scared of it anymore. But it was an experiences that bring me to a point where I was seeking outside of myself for that connection to the higher realms, where it would be connected so I could understand myself as how I am in the world. Whereas with religion, you can still have those same experiences and everything, but you're just going to be, it's just going to reflect through a more structured, I feel, thing, and more be like prayer, for example, or different, like we were talking about, rituals. But there is, I think, the one thing about religion that is where a lot of people, the reason why it's so popular is the community part of it. You have a community of people who are going to encourage you to, study with you the Bible or whatever book you're studying, and you'll have this feedback loop, if you will. Whereas when you're just doing spirituality work, or you're just, trying to connect, you may not have that community right at your fingertips. So it's a little bit more in the trenches versus having that strong backing. That's what I feel anyway.
Yeah, even as I've gotten deeper into spiritual studies and practices, that it's almost, can feel lonely, because a lot of people don't get what you're saying or you're doing, because I think more of society is focused on organized religion than just exploring spirituality. And so, it can be really, really lonely. But it also can be really beautiful, like you're out on a hike and you turn a corner and then there's this mountain and you just feel this incredible oneness with the all, And, I have to say, as I said before, I was raised Catholic. I practice Unitarian Universalism now. I'm a you-er. But when I grew up, I didn't feel spirit or anything special or energy. In the masses, I felt bored.
Yeah.
Right. I just felt bored. I didn't understand what they're saying or getting at. And the only time that, I'd be excited is if there was some good music.
Oh yeah, of course. That's one thing about anything. If you want to go to a church service where there's good music, there's good music.
Right. I
And
mean, that always makes me feel connected.
oh yeah, and like my father, beautiful voice, but he always sang a cappella. So when he would sing, it would just give me chills. So
Mm.
music would always connects me, I feel. I think that is the but you know, that comes into things that I teach about with vibration because you know,
Right.
it's that vibration, certain frequencies connect you to the higher realms just because you are a vibrational being. You are like we were talking about before, you are spirit having a human experience. So that connects you right there. But like, and there's one thing I mentioned, and you were saying about the mountain prayer, for example.
Mm.
In religion, you are taught to go through different people to get to that higher power. You've got to pray your way through the channels, if you will. Like, okay, I pray to Jesus in the name of Jesus. You might tell God, okay, hey, you know, there's all this stuff. I feel when it comes to spirituality, I call it just paying reverence. I don't pray, but I try to be, you know, grateful for what all that I have, for one. And gratitude is one of the first things that even in regular religion, you know, gratitude is key, but also paying reverence just to the beauty and the wonder and the diversity that this world is, and just understanding that you are connected to all of it. That there sometimes just that feeling alone just gives me that goosebumpy feeling because it's like, yeah, all of this, you know, we're all one, you know, Mother Earth is just, you know, here chilling with us too. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree that, rather than looking to a prayer or a book, I'm trying to be mindful and connected to everything that's happening around me and finding those everyday little miracles. Not that you can't get great solace in, the religious scriptures,
right.
or, like in Catholicism, they have rosary, which is this kind of like mala, so
Mhm.
the repetitive gets you almost into a trance.
Right. It's
Um,
meditation.
it's absolutely meditation, but don't say that because meditation
Right. No,
is the
oh,
devil.
they'll get us.
And I also think, growing up, I had this problem where God was this guy in the sky, right? In his white robe. He was very white. Everything was white, white flowy hair, white beard. And, you know, eh, it was really hard to feel connected to that versus now when I think of the quantum field or the energy of love and that everything is connected. It just,
I love that quantum physics proved us spiritual
I
beings.
know, it's so cool. Let's talk now about what does personal autonomy and individual exploration play in spirituality as compared to religion. We touched on this a little bit.
Yeah, in religion, it's there, but sometimes you may or may not be encouraged not to do that, depending on what religion or who's around you. And some who are true spiritual people who are in a religion will be the ones that encourage you, you know. When it comes to spirituality, it's kind of like the stepping stone because you're gonna go out there and look and dig. Um, and as far as how it reflects within you, probably just a matter of how you put things together. You can meditate and get quiet and listen to your soul and truly tune in to your intuition and what your soul is trying to tell you, because that's who you truly are, in my view. Um, and you'll find your answers within. Whereas with religion, you're encouraged to find the answers within the book, and then that's when interpretation gets in there.
Right.
I know in my family, with being a lot of very old school religious roots, even in that, my father probably was more of an oxymoron because he liked to dig. And so I guess I got my digging from him. But I think that natural curiosity, no matter if you're religious or just spiritual, is the key. That natural, what is there more to all of this than just this? That part of it is that curiosity to get the information. Then when you get it, you just have to internalize it and start to sit with it more.
Right. I think that anybody who really develops a very strong and devout faith, they get to that point where they do that questioning period. Everything what I was taught, it doesn't really play that way out in the world, and I'm seeing this and I'm seeing that. And whether you stay in, the traditional religion you were raised in or find something else, it's almost like you have to question in order to really receive the gifts.
Yes. And I think, and this is just and I mind you, I am rusty on my Bible stuff, but this is still my favorite verse. The kingdom of God is within you.
Oh, I use that all the time too.
And I use it a lot. Yeah, exactly. Because it explains so much. Jesus, in his truest form, was more Buddha than anything. And when he got wrote into, when he dies, and then a bunch of people start writing a book, and he's not around to go, hey, wait, I didn't mean that, I meant this, so
Right.
But the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of, is within you. He's really talking about your own consciousness, your own connection to God. Like, God to me is not a person. And I think that's the disconnect with religion, where you were saying before, like, this white bearded, who is this, Zeus? Like, what I mean?
Guy in the sky.
Right, guy in the sky. What is he doing? But to me, and also with the quantum physics thing finally proving us right, everything is an energy. So really God is an energy. God is within all of us. And that's why in like my work, I say, the divinity within yourself, get in touch with that, because you are divine, because you are here,
Absolutely.
and because you are divine, you are automatically connected to everything. You just need to find the thing. And when
the best route to make that connection.
Right, the best route. Right. And if you are someone like, you start, maybe you're religious, or I came from a Baptist type background, you're more Catholic. So for, if we're trying to, somebody might be, reading a specific verse, and then, they might feel a specific way about certain things. And that again reflects their spirituality, or their closeness to all that there is going to be reflected through the rules and regulations. And then there's going to be that day, like we all know, what's going on, and then they'll, they may or may not, but it's
explore other avenues. Yeah. Hey, Dr. Kimmie, we need to go into another break.
Oh, break
time. And fascinating discussion. We're going to carry on, and we're going to go deeper into this whole concept of community after the break. I'm Dr. Diane, and you are listening to Find Your Fabulous Show. And Dr. Kimmie and I will be right back. But before we go, Dr. Kimmie, once again, remind our listeners how to reach out to you and find out more about you and your services.
Everything is on my website. You can book online, all of that jazz. And that's RevDrKimmie.com. Reverend Dr. Kimmie.
Beautiful. And to learn more about my coaching services and free empowerment resources, you can check out my website at fullpowerwomen.com. And if you missed any information on this show or any of our shows, you can find all the replays on my website as well. And if you need to reach out directly, just reach out to Dr. Diane, email at drdiane@fullpowerwomen.com. We're going to go into a short break. We'll be right back for more fascinating discussion. Stay tuned. We are back on the Find Your Fabulous show with Dr. Diane and with my very special guest, Dr. Reverend Kimmie. And we are here exploring the interconnections and differences between spirituality and religion. You know, since the beginning of human communities and tribes, people have been gathering together to celebrate their understanding of and connection to the divine. In fact, Carolyn Mace tells us that our very bodies are constructed in a way to seek spiritual connection and to create spiritual practices. For example, the energies and meanings of the 7 chakras that align on our spine are very neatly fit with the 7 sacraments of Christian religion. So I just think, we're built to be spiritual. And if you want to learn more about Carolyn Mace, readers, pick up her book, Anatomy of the Spirit. So I want to dig in to the ideas of how religion and spirituality influence personal identity and a sense of belonging with a larger community or worldview. But first, I want to share with our listeners a few statistics that I dug up. So Christianity is the biggest formal religion worldwide, with roughly 2.4 billion followers, comprising about 31% of the world population, followed next by Islam, up with 1.9 billion followers, Hinduism with about 1.2, and then Buddhism with about 0.4 billion or 400 million followers. So that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people engaged in traditional religions. In the US, church identification and attendance, however, is dropping. In the 1940s through the 70s, more than 90% of Americans said they identified with a Christian religion, and that has steadily declined to about 68% here in 2023. Only 30% of Americans say they attend religious services weekly, while 25% say they do seldom, and 31% say they never do. That's like 50% of the population not engaged in the community. So scholars have highlighted a number of reasons for this, and especially with the millennial generations, middle-aged folks today, they view the church is too focused on power and money, too involved in politics, or they're too focused on theological rules, and thus have become exclusive to certain groups of people, such as LGBTQ plus community. You have any thoughts on that?
Woo, that's a lot. And I agree, because for one, the modern day church is more about power and political power. But I mean, to be fair, Jesus was crucified by the Christians and he was talking about love and everything. So it's not surprising that power plays a crucial point when it comes to religion. But the rules, that is the rules are very detrimental to the spirit, in my view. Trying to ostracize people who are gay or straight or trans, trying to make women not fulfill their roles in life. Meanwhile, Mary Magdalene and all these women were surrounding Jesus and were his counselors and confidants and all these things. But because books were written by humanity and, to me, reflect the social construct of that time frame, they are antiquated. And so the rules that people are told to follow is like, women be quiet. They've misinterpreted the whole thing about Leviticus and gay. Gay doesn't even mean that in the context. It meant something completely different. But because we've wanted to put these rules and regulations on certain aspects of the population to control them and to demonize them, Jesus wouldn't have done that. So
no, he hung out with tax collectors and prostitutes. He loved everybody.
For tables and going, no, he would be.
I love that.
Be a radical, radical love hippie of the modern age, in my view. So I think a lot of they're basically shooting themselves in the foot by not keeping up with the times. Now, there are churches, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like this is everything, because there are churches that are very loving and very and understand that the main function is love. It's not to love someone in spite of them being gay, like some people want to say, oh, I love you, but what you do, or hate the love the
person,
sinner.
make the behavior.
Yeah, like love the sinner, hate the sin or something. That's not what it's about. Love is unconditional. And the whole thing about the Bible and all these spiritual books is always a theme of love and unconditional love and understanding that everything is love. So when you put rules and regulations, that's not unconditional love. So you've got young people recognizing, because that's just not how it should be, and their spirit doesn't sit right with it. So of course the church is declining, because they're not focused on the spirit, they're focused on everything else,
on the rules and power and control.
Yes.
Okay, so how does religion and spirituality influence our personal identity and sense of belonging within, since we're here, a larger community or worldview?
Well, religion can hinder or help, depending on, who you're around. But at the broader community level, you've got these morality codes, I think, that are in, people think if you're religious or you're a Christian, you have this built-in morality code that love everyone and all of that. And then the opposite shows its face to be true. So there are these, like we were talking about, rules and belief systems that set up shop in your brain that affect how you project yourself into the world.
Right.
And like, for example, say you're a young gay woman or man or whatever, and you've got a very restrictive upbringing where these rules are important. That's going to do a lot of damage to your sense of self and sense of belonging. Where do you belong? Where do you fit? Who am I? I'm an evil person. And that's where it gets, where I have issues, because if you're going to encourage somebody to, be loving and kind to everyone and treat the stranger like they are you, and all of these beautiful teachings, and then turn around and like do something else with them, and it affects people in the world, because it affects on how you react to the world and how you react to yourself and how you think about yourself. And with the community, it's either going to reinforce that or guide you in a direction that, no, you are a beautiful soul, you are magnificent. It can be either reassuring in your community, or it could be damaging.
Right.
That's how I see it.
And there's still too many, to me, religious traditions that are trying to say, we are the one, all the others don't count.
Right.
So that, how's that love one another? Love one another if you believe what we believe, and otherwise you're going straight to hell.
Basically. Yeah.
Somehow that doesn't really fit in with Jesus' teachings in my mind.
No, he would be very angry right now. And I don't think he would, I'm not super connected to the Bible in that way. I've always loved the stories and the community part. You read these, and just by looking at the story of the Bible, not picking everything apart, but the story, he would not have any of this mess.
No, indeed not. It's time for us to head into our third break. You are listening to the Find Your Fabulous show with Dr. Diane. And when we come back, Dr. Kimmie and I are going to continue this very juicy conversation. But before we break, Dr. Kimmie, remind our listeners once more about how to find you and reach out to you.
You can find me and all about me and everything I offer on my website. And it is RevDrKimmie.com. So ReverendDrKimmie.com, all one word, and everything's there.
fabulous. And for all things fabulous, including my coaching services and free empowerment resources, check out my website at fullpowerwomen.com. We're going into a break, but we'll be back shortly, so stay tuned. Hello, everyone. We are back on the Find Your Fabulous show with Dr. Diane, and I am here with my very special guest, Reverend Dr. Kimmie Van Duijkeren, and we are exploring the interconnections and differences between spirituality and religion. And we have already covered quite a lot of ground of juicy topics, a lot of ground, but let's go really deep and explore the ways the teaching of Jesus in the New Testament reflect principles of spiritual awakening and inner transformation, akin to the idea of Christ consciousness. But before we dive into that, can you please explain to our listeners what you mean by Christ consciousness?
Well, Christ consciousness is kind of like unity consciousness. There are several places, even in the Bible, where you would see Jesus talk about how him and his Father were one, right? That whole connection to everything. So Christ consciousness is really about consciousness, and that, and if depending on what book you look at, they can even look at the resurrection and persecution of Jesus Christ on the cross as how to explain the Christ oil coming up from your chakra system and everything, and that oil, Christ oil or Christ oil, awakening your full potential, your full divinity, and you finally understanding, your connection to everything. But it gets glossed over because of misinterpretations, and there's tons of different interpretations of that. But it really is the interconnectedness of all life and the presence of the divine in everything. And that's, I think it was John 17:21. I had a note on this. Jesus spoke about the unity of all in God, as seen in the prayers for believers to the one as he and his Father are one. So that right there tells you the connectedness of everything. And I think a lot of people, when they think of consciousness, they don't necessarily think of Christ consciousness, or that is an actual thing that happens in your body when you're meditating. If you were to study things like Kundalini or Buddhism or Hinduism, you might find things like that, but not necessarily in modern Christian textbooks or teachings. But with the Christ oil, it really is what awakens, that Kundalini fire almost. It's the awakening of your consciousness to the connection that all there is.
So it's an energy experience.
Right. It's an energy. I've had it. It's crazy, but but it's an energy experience. If you were to think of it without the Christ label, basically, when you think of Kundalini, people think, what is Kundalini? It's the oil at the base of your spine that is like this awakening liquid. You will find sometimes people meditate and they feel a fire in their back, and it travels up and goes to your third eye, which these are gifts that we all should have, but they have been shut down. We were saying before, our natural state is to be connected to everything. But with Christ consciousness, it's really just a matter of explaining how that connects us all, and what he was talking about in the Bible about, he's all one and everything like that. And it is really unity consciousness, that whole experience more than anything. I hope that just makes sense. It's hard to explain.
It is, but I think for people who are very serious about achieving spiritual enlightenment, the ultimate is Christ consciousness.
Right.
And that doesn't matter what traditions, religious tradition they may have come from, because the term Christ consciousness was used, or an interpretation of the words used in, I think, Buddhism at least.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned like Hinduism, Buddhism, a lot of Eastern religions speak about this type of experience in full. Whereas in Christianity, not Gnostic Christianity or anything, but just what we see, modern Christianity, they don't really dive into that. You will see segments of people who are more into meditation, and you'll see a lot more people being open to Christ consciousness now and really looking at his work or the Bible with that, belief and mindset, so they are able to get the benefits of it. But it really is a matter of awakening to your higher purpose, to your soul mission, to, and if you've ever meditated and felt that heat at the bottom of your spine, you're on a path. I've felt that before. It's quite interesting because at first you don't know what is going on, to be fair. And then you start digging and digging, and then you're like, okay, this makes sense. And then that's how I stumbled upon the term of Christ consciousness. At first, I was like, I'm not a Bible person, and then I'm like, oh, this has nothing really to do with that. It's really a universal concept. It just depends on which angle you're coming at it from, that awakening.
And that just made me think of something, Dr. Kimmie. So, in religious traditions, they may not ever encourage you to tune inwardly.
Right.
Right. Because it's all about going to, service and practicing the community rituals in an external kind of way. But to really have spiritual awakening, we do need to tune inwardly. And as you're saying, our body, and as Carolyn May said, our body are built with this energy system, this nervous system, kundalini, chakras, whatever you want to call it, that when you really tune in deeply can awaken and then give you altered spiritual experiences, a different sense of connection, of being connected to the all, being floating in the cosmos, so to speak. I've had some really cool experiences. So it's this Christ consciousness and everything we've been talking about in terms of spirituality exploration, but it's about exploring inwardly, not just in books, or church hopping, or whatever you want to call it. It's really something I try to get people aware of. If you really want to find that inner peace and the inner calm and be free of depression and anxiety and have self-worth, you got to tune inward.
Yep. It's that spiritual liberation that we're all searching for. So we actually can, because it's one thing to just say, I'm connected. It's another to start actually feeling it. And when you actually start feeling it, you still have your questions. You'll still have all these things you want to dig into, but you'll feel guided in a way that is beyond all of that, because you'll have this internal guidance system that is telling you. You may get feelings. I know I'm one of those more energy sensitive type people, so I feel things. But before that, I was probably running around still going, you get into it in yourself, and then everything starts to make sense.
Right.
Not all of it, but enough where you start to feel it,
Right. And it encourages you to go deeper and deeper.
Right.
Believe it or not, we are at time. This has gone so incredibly fast. We might have to continue this discussion on another day.
Yes.
Before we wrap up, Dr. Kimmie, remind our listeners one more time how to find you, to reach out to you.
My website has everything on me and all my services, and that is REVDRKIMMIE, so ReverendDrKimmie.com.
And you can check out everything I do at fullpowerwomen.com. And you can also reach out to me directly at Dr. Diane at fullpowerwomen.com. I want to thank my very wonderful guest, Reverend Dr. Kimmie Van Duijkeren, for sharing such great information. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Find Your Fabulous show. I had a wonderful time. Please join me every first and third Monday of the month at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Central time, and that's 11 a.m. Eastern time. Have a beautiful day, dear listeners, and we'll see you back here next time on June 3rd at 8 a.m. Pacific or 10 a.m. Central, my time. And until then, just go out there and find your fabulous, because you deserve no less. I'm your host, Dr. Diane, and you have been listening to Find Your Fabulous. It's time to ignite your full power. Tune in every first and third Monday of the month at 8 a.m. Pacific time on Transformation Talk Radio for information, inspiration, and revelation to ignite your personal power. Connect with other bold, courageous, and powerful women who are ready to stop playing small and reclaim the passion and purpose that we all hold within us. The world needs you, full power. To find your fabulous and ignite your inner goddess, visit fullpowerwomen.com.